right, we are on. What's up, guys? Welcome to the Q&A. January 27th. It's our nephew or cousin Jack's 21st birthday today, Rhino. I don't know if you know that.
Why are we sitting here?
Yeah, we should be down in the zoo. So as you guys can tell, I'm in a little bit of a different setting here. I'm not in the 18 Strong HQ. I'm at home. We had some refrigerator issues, so I'm playing logistics man, trying to get the refrigerator fixed today. But yeah, I know that we've been talking, a little bit about like some goal setting stuff and focus, and we're going to kind of get into some of that content and chat, and just a couple things that Ryan and I have kind of discussed ad nauseum over the past couple of years, just as far as the importance of goal setting, but what's the right way to do it and how we kind of go about doing some of these things. Rhino, what's happening on your end, brother?
Well, I was checking out the scores. I think the Farmers Insurance is kind of the unofficial start of the PGA season here. Now, I think they had like 7 of the top 10 guys were playing today. So our boy Hayden and our boy Adam are going to have a little stiffer competition this weekend. Are they both playing this thing? I didn't even look. I just caught a glimpse of it. I'm gearing up for the World Cup qualifier tonight against El Salvador.
Oh, I didn't even realize that was happening. Yeah, actually, the Farmers started yesterday, so they're into the second round today. That got switched up because of the football schedule this week, so they didn't want to compete with the NFL on Sunday. So Hayden, I think was maybe 1 under yesterday, and I think Adam was maybe even. So they got their work cut out for themselves to get in the mix on the weekend. I know Hayden was actually I got a cool message from the guys at TPI this past week. Our buddy Ben Salisbury runs the social media for TPI, and so I got a little note that said, hey, look who's doing some force pressure testing out at TPI headquarters out in Oceanside. And he sent me some video of Hayden out there working with the guys from TPI, which was pretty awesome. So I'm very interested to talk to him about what that experience was like. I know his coach, Chris Harder, was out there with him. So it sounds like they had a great day of testing. They got to work directly with Greg Rose, who is the head of the head of TPI. So I'll report back and let you guys know what that looked like. One of these weeks when, in fact, I was trying to get a little guest appearance today for our topic, but one of these weeks when Hayden is not playing, I'm going to see if he'd be willing to join us on one of these calls. I think that'd be pretty awesome to just kind of pepper him with some questions and get to chat with a PGA Tour pro live. And I was hoping today to get Lieutenant Colonel Dan Rooney on, just to talk about, focus, goal setting, paying attention to the details, because who better to talk to about that kind of stuff than a fighter pilot whose every single action is, there are consequences to everything that he does, or missing any kind of steps in the process. And so that kind of takes me to this kind of the idea of why we wanted to talk about focus and paying attention to the details. Many of you guys that are in the Facebook group or doing the Forge saw my post this past weekend that I screwed up, that I messed up on the Forge, and I did exactly what I said somebody was going to do in order to screw up their whole deal. And it was not that I gave into a temptation. It was not that I had to have a certain meal or whatever, or didn't want to do a workout. It was just plain an oversight. I just totally missed it. I kind of took for granted that I had already done something, went to bed, didn't really check off my checklist, and turns out I missed the one thing that one of the main things that we say do every single day, and it was the EFDs, the daily motion. And I think it's just one of those things where I just kind of took it for granted that I did it in the morning and forgot that I had gone on my walk, and things got kind of off schedule, and went to bed, woke up at 5:30 a.m. the next morning. And I was laying in bed, and my eyes, I shot up in bed, and I was like, oh F. And then I started thinking like I went through this whole series of emotions, like, okay, wait, did I'm sure I did. I probably did those yesterday. And you do it so many times, it's kind of like you forget brushing your teeth, that kind of a thing.
Right.
And then I started thinking like, no, I know I didn't do it. And then you kind of go through all of these different scenarios of, okay, well, like I said in the email that I put out, like the one thing, and I will say that it was only a brief moment, but I did think to myself like, okay, I can't, like, nobody else knows that I didn't do this. I really don't want to start this whole thing over. And I was like, are you kidding me? Everything that we preach here, everything that we talk about as far as, doing the work, putting in the effort, all this stuff, and you're gonna bail out on this. And so then I was like, nope, I gotta own up to it. And today we're just gonna start it all over. And so that the whole thing goes down to paying attention to the details. And this is exactly what this whole process is about, especially for me. I am a guy who oftentimes, like paying attention to those little details is not my strong suit. That's why I live off of checklists. That's why I live off of my little daily planner and because if I don't have it written down, I can easily get distracted and move on to something else, or, take on another project or do whatever, and let the little things kind of slip through the cracks. And that's exactly what happened. So in hindsight, it's one of those things that ends up really being kind of a blessing in disguise, because it's one of those things that I know I need to work on. And anytime you screw up, it's easier to learn that lesson. Anytime you feel those waves of emotion, it's going to ingrain that much better. It's just like any mistake that we've made as a kid, anything that we did, on the soccer field, that maybe some mistake we made that ended up causing a goal, any stupid shot that you hit in a very important round of golf that ended up causing you to lose something. Maybe you lost focus there. And that's the whole thing. Paying attention to those little things in your setup, in your stance, in your pre-shot routine, after you hit a shot, all of these different things. If we have these little processes, but we skip over these steps, they can all lead to, in this case, what ended up being a big mistake. But then, this got me thinking about really how trivial this ultimately is. I mean, this is all just kind of a game that I'm playing internally with myself, and that you guys are all playing with yourselves. But then yeah, I know. I knew you were going to call me out on that. But then I started thinking about like guys like Lieutenant Colonel Dan Rooney. Then I started thinking about guys like Hayden Buckley. And, if they lose focus in situations, for Hayden, it could cost him hundreds of thousands of dollars. For Dan Rooney, it could cost him his life. As far as being up in a fighter jet. You think of the people that are in the Olympics that, I always think of those sprinters, and I always feel so freaking bad when they have that false start and they're just eliminated. 4 years of all that work. So I was sitting here crying about, having to start over after 20 days. And you get somebody that goes to the Olympics, maybe they're the one that gets knocked down on the track by somebody else. And now 4 years of their life that they worked all this, they put in all this time and effort to get to that spot. And now it's like, this other dude just blew it because he clipped my leg, and we both fell on the track, and I didn't make my time. And now I missed out on the medal. It's like, that's where focus and paying attention to the details, when you take it to the extremes, how important this stuff really can be.
Yeah, it sounds like when I was talking to you about this, you were going through like the stages of grief.
Mm-hmm.
When you did it, like at first, you're like, this can't be real. Then you're like bargaining, and then ultimately,
yeah, totally.
the acceptance, right? Because you can't really, had you become a fraud and lied about this, every email you sent from then on, you'd just be full of BS.
Oh,
trying
yeah,
to tell people that.
Every video I made, every post in the 18 strong Facebook group about the Forge, it would have been like, that little voice. What's the movie? Where you got the angel and the devil Animal House. You got the little devil saying, "You're a big fat liar,"
Right.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, at some point I need to go through, what is it, the apology phase, where I got to go and apologize to everyone. And
That's
there's
the
like
12 steps of
12 steps of,
AA, right?
right.
Which is a whole different thing.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, it's which golfer was that? Is it Arnold Palmer or Bobby Jones that they said I think it's Arnold Palmer, maybe Jack Nicklaus. You know, I've never learned anything from a win. You know, and that's like carries him through that whole thing. And then this actually is a blessing in disguise, because of the guys that have reached out to you since that said, you know, I blew it pretty early in the game, but you inspired me to start this thing again. Like our buddy who is playing hockey again now
Yeah.
after how long? So
Yeah. Here, actually, I want to read a text that I got, because, many times it's when you think you've made the biggest mistake, and you finally own up to it, or something bad happens. Many times something really good comes out of it. And so I got this message from a buddy. I won't say who it is. He's in the group. He's part of the Forge as well. But he said, he sent me two things. He said, I just saw your Facebook video from this morning. And then in quotes, he said, a leader is one who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way. And then he put starting day one. Here we go. And then he said, that video will cause others to forgive themselves, admit mistakes, move forward, and be better. That video is huge for somebody this morning. Mark my words. And it was big for me. But then I got several messages from people that said, like, hey, first of all, they just encouraged me to keep going. Then they said, thanks for posting that video. And many of them said, I stopped doing the Forge because of XYZ. Some got COVID, some of them just slipped up. And it's one of those things where I knew that people throughout this whole endeavor, I knew that people were going to start and be really gung-ho. I can think of a couple people that we know personally, Rhino, that were really gung-ho at the beginning. And I haven't heard anything from them since. I haven't seen any posts from them since. And I knew that people would just kind of fade out in the background. But I think that what something like this does is it lets people realize, like, first of all, that I screw up just as much as everybody else, right? We all screw up just as much as everybody else. But that gave them some leeway to say, like, okay, I didn't totally blow this thing. Jeff's starting over. I can start over. And I think, like that text said, it gives people a little bit of leeway to then forgive themselves, because we all screw up. But then, like, hey, all right, let's get back on the freaking horse, right? And so now I'm taking it as a personal challenge to make this new 40 days that much more challenging on myself, to push myself even further. There's other little tasks that I've added on to my 40-day Forge, and I've seen other people doing that in the group as well. Kind of adding on to either their cold showers or adding some more physical activity. And really, that's, I think, what the whole thing is about, is not even just kind of checking off all the little boxes, but okay, how can I even make myself get a little better from week to week to week to week? And then I think what the next challenge for us is going to be is, then once that 40 days is over, where do we go next, right? Because if you, it's like you always have to have some, and that this kind of gets to our topic for today of some goal setting and things like that, and the importance of having something that you're striving towards. Because once the 40 days is over, it's very easy to then say, I've seen a couple of people say, like, oh, I've got my list of things I'm going to eat, things I'm going to drink,
right.
Like all this stuff at the end. It's like, you're missing. If that's the case, by the time you get to that 40th day, I bet that person doesn't feel the same way. But at the beginning, it's kind of like, oh, I can't wait to get this over with so I can get my reward. But the reward is ultimately what happens through those 40 days and how different you are when you are on that 40th day. And I would venture to say that person's not going to want to then go binge and splurge and do all this other stuff, because then it's like, well, what the fuck did we do it for? Right. So
100%.
And I think that's then on us, not just me and you, Ryan, but us as a group, us as a crew, to then continue to push each other to say, like, look, that was that was the initial forward. That's great. We've got to where we are now, but let's keep moving forward. Let's keep keep on trucking, as they say, so we can continue to just keep getting better and better and better. And by the end of this 40 days, hopefully 40 days is only 40 days from here. Then it's like, okay, well, what's the next thing? Do you then shift your focus to, okay, now how do I forge for golf? How do I forge, if that's going to be your goal, to really get your handicap down or increase your swing speed? How do you use what you learned during the forge and just reframe it to then have another intent and reach another specific goal? So what's the process there that you then go through? How can you utilize kind of the same type of system to hone in your focus to really get better at that one thing?
Yeah, I know I've done it on the golf course where I'll step out there and say, no, I'm not. I'm going to manage the course. I'm going to put my ego aside the next 5 times I play, and I always play better. Just doing like little stuff like that, or I'm not. I don't know. I'm gonna lay up instead of making the stupid shot. And I know we don't like to lay up because we're tough people, but I lose more shots doing stupid ego stuff than anything. So that's kind of one of the things I'm like, I need a streak where I'm not playing stupidly. And it hasn't been 40 rounds, I'll tell you that. It's never been close. 4 holes, 40 holes maybe. I like Marina said, she's been doing it for 27 days, so she's scared stiff of forgetting something. Like, now you're going to be even more laser focused.
Yeah.
From what Bodine did to himself.
Well, and that's part of it. That's the note I was just writing down here is, having some sort of a risk associated with whatever your goal is can be a very important factor. And that there's all different ways to set up a risk. It could be like, okay, if I don't do this, then, I have to pay a certain amount of money to whatever, or, I was just listening to Kevin Kisner talking on the Subpar podcast, and him and Justin Thomas had some sort of a bet, and whoever, it was on one of the football games, so it wasn't like a personal achievement kind of a goal, but it was whoever lost had to turn their Twitter account over to the other guy for a day, which as a public figure, that's a pretty big risk. So like that's part of the forge is you've got that risk associated with it of having to start over if you're doing it legit and you're going to take it serious, having to start over day one. And like Marina said, like that's scary. You're 27 days in, you've been doing phenomenal. And then all of a sudden, like you go to bed and I mean, Marina, have you had like a panic dream or like anything like that where you wake up and you're like, did I do it? And then kind of realize, oh yeah, okay, I did it. Have you had anything like that?
I haven't had panic dreams, but on days when for some reason, like you said, you went out for a walk very early and you forgot something, you forgot the EFD, where I have been really busy in the morning, getting out of the house really quickly, haven't got the time to do the meditation or something. And the whole day I'm sort of thinking, I've got to do the meditation. And then the minute I come home, I do the meditation. Because when I do my meditation, I sit down and I actually sort of in a comfortable seated, I do it sort of with a guided thing. So I got to do it the minute I get in. I'm panicking if I forget it. But no bad dreams, though.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, I've started to make it my habit now that I've always got my daily planner. Inside my daily planner, I've got my calendar of the forge for my checklist. And normally I'm really good about checking things off. But that night that I didn't do it, I didn't check off my list at the end of the night. So now every night I get home from work, I pull my planner out of my bag. I set it on the island in the kitchen, and I pull the calendar out and I put it right on top. So before I go upstairs at night and turn off the lights and turn on the coffee pot, I see it sitting right there. So if I have to go through my checklist, and if I didn't do my things, I will literally get down on the floor and do my daily motion right there on the spot. And or whatever else it was that I didn't end up doing. I'm pretty good about getting most of the things done early in the morning. And again, that shows that, like, when you have those priorities laid out and you can knock them down early, it's like, man, I've got the rest of the day to do whatever else. And the same could go for anything that you have to do business wise, or any other tasks in your life. If you can knock those things out, the high priority things at the beginning of your day, then it creates such a levity for the rest of the day, that you have more time to be productive, or more time to goof off, or more time to go play golf, or whatever it is that you want to do. So I think it's really important to have those things. Before I've got kind of a list of things that I wanted to just kind of briefly go through, just some nuggets as far as just kind of goal setting and achieving kind of your process driven goals and stuff like that. Anything else that's going on, Rhino, before we jump on that? And then obviously I know Brandon sent me a question that we'll get to, just regarding some other stuff. So if we got some questions that have come through the hopper, we'll get to those too.
Yep, we've got I've got some good questions today. So it's kind of been a goal setting focused week. I think it's interesting how we've started to evolve, where every week, like, your emails kind of revolve around one kind of central topic, which I imagine makes it easier to write all that stuff. But yeah, I think it's much more efficient than being scattered like we have been for God knows how long. We're getting better at this.
Well, I hope so. And I think that, Ryan and I, we talk about all these different topics, and I think ultimately we wanted to shift to more being able to provide some valuable content that you can use too through these emails. So as the emails come out every week, and as we're starting to do some more stuff on social media and stuff, we're trying to educate a little bit more as to, like, our process, the process that I use when I'm working with clients in the gym. So I think I mentioned last week that I'm starting to put a lot more videos just of me working with clients on my Instagram page. Very simple stuff, just like videos that you can hear me talking to the person about how they go through their exercises. And so I'm hoping that kind of stuff helps out a little bit. But then, as the emails come out, it's a little bit more about, like, the thought process that we go through, the things that we're learning ourselves and trying to get better at ourselves. Because like we always say, we're one of you guys, we're part of the crew. And the idea is to help all of us get better on and off the course, especially in the gym, especially with the mindset stuff. As many of you know, I am really kind of enjoying and geeking out on, kind of the mental side of things, which we'll talk a little bit about here as well. So, but yeah. So just regarding goals, Ryan and I, we talk a lot about, and Ryan, we've had this conversation of how important is it to set, like, a specific goal versus having your process down. It's important to have both, but I think you and I have really come to enjoy the idea of having the process and the tasks that ultimately then get you closer to that goal. So it's good to have, like, that goal out in the ether, kind of figure out what that is, what direction you're shooting for, right. And even having some specificity to that, but not getting so focused on the bigger picture of that goal and forgetting about the minute tasks, right?
Yeah, so it's actually, I have a pretty good story about this, on like the business front, where we've been running various businesses for well over a decade, and a big part of, like, corporate America especially is, like, forecasting. What's your next year going to be like, and what's the sales goal, millions of dollars, depending upon how big your business is. And one of my buddies knows the CEO of Energizer. So the batteries, they're here in St. Louis, huge company. And so he was asking him, now, if you've been in a restaurant in the past year, everybody's understaffed. Every business has a "Hub Wanted" sign out there. And so my buddy was asking this guy, what is it going to look like this year, as far as, sales and projections? And the CEO, this guy probably makes $15 million a year, said, I have no fucking idea, because he's got a goal, but it doesn't matter because he doesn't know his process. So
Yeah.
it's impossible for him to come up with that. And really, I've thought this for so many years, and you and I have been so far off on back when we really did do projections and things like that. It's an educated guess, you know. It's odd where, like, weight loss is another good example. Hey, I want to lose 10 pounds by such and such. That's my goal. Well, you don't know what's going to happen from here to there. You know, it could be, very rarely is it less, because realistic expectations are not really part of the weight loss world. But more often than not, it's going to be a little bit longer. And I've seen so many people quit because they don't reach that goal in the time that they had set for themselves. Whereas had they just focused on that process, the goal would have come. And that's really what changed me. You know, why I was always hovering, you know, closer to the 190 range, and now I'm 175 with, not that I'm not trying, but sorry, I got a stupid other website. But yeah, it's not, again, it's all about the process. And I think that's where so many people get it wrong. And I know you've really employed that in what you're doing as well.
Yeah, for sure. So let me just kind of go through this list, because we'll touch a little bit more on the whole process thing a little bit further down here too. And I apologize for my lighting here. I know I'm getting a little dark here and there. So let me just kind of go through this, and then we'll kind of expand on these as we go. But you know, so when you are setting goals, I do think it's important to have a goal that you're shooting for. So whether that's weight loss, maybe that's swing speed, maybe that's you know, breaking 90, breaking 80, getting down to a certain handicap. I think that it's important to set some sort of a parameter of where you want to go. Not to live and die by that number, but if you don't have any kind of specificity to it, then you're kind of just, I think the reason to have specificity is because specificity kind of doesn't let you get away with just kind of half-assing it. You know, like if you say, well, I'm going to get better at golf this year. That's my goal, get better at golf.
Well, what does that mean?
What does that mean?
Right.
Or I'm going to get stronger this year. Okay. You know, you got to give me some sort of parameters around that. Or I'm going to lose some weight. Well, okay, you're going to lose 1 pound, you're going to lose 10 pounds. So having some sort of specificity doesn't let, you know, it puts you, it gives you a little bit of that risk of failing or not failing, or being able to say, yes, I did it. No, I didn't. Now, at the end of the day, if you have that goal and you're working your way towards it, that's a win of just getting closer to it, right? So at the end of the year, if you didn't exactly hit it, you know, is it the end of the world? No, but if you were striving towards it and you got really close, you know, you're still winning in many respects. So specificity is the first thing that I would say, goal setting wise. You have to have a little bit of that. You know, we've always heard this, you know, SMART goals: specific, measurable, attainable. R can be different for different people. Risky is what I like to say. And then having time, you know, setting some sort of time frame. So that's kind of the traditional standard SMART goals, right? So I would say in this list for today, first is just being somewhat specific with that goal, having a direction that you know you're going, and not just giving yourself kind of a generalized, oh, I'm going to get better kind of a thing. The second thing, when you're setting a goal, or when you're trying to achieve something, is that I think is super, super important, and we're seeing this with the Forge, is sharing it with somebody, having some accountability to someone other than yourself, and especially to somebody that's going to kind of call you out on it, somebody that's going to hold you to that standard, because our emotions waver from hour to hour, day to day, morning to evening, right? So you can set a goal one morning when you're super pumped up, you're amped, you're ready to take on the world, and then something happens, your refrigerator goes out, you have a shitty day, and then all of a sudden that night you're like, you know what, it's really not that important. I'll start tomorrow or whatever. And then you skip your workout, you eat a bad meal, whatever. But when you do that simple little thing of sharing it with somebody, it can't just be somebody that is going to just go along with you and appease you and enable you, right? It has to be somebody that's going to be like, hey, you told me you wanted to do this, so I'm going to call you out. And I find that that's what I often have to do to some of my clients, is simply not let them get away with what they said that they want, not what I want them to do, but not get away with what they said that they want to do. So
Right.
sharing with somebody is good. Number 3 is, it's important to see it or speak it or think about it every single day. So whatever it is, the more you read it out loud, if you have it written down, it is best. If you read it out loud, the more you think about it, the more you're simply going to focus on it. The more you're going to be able to kind of visualize what you're striving to achieve. The more you're going to be able to possibly visualize yourself achieving that. And so, wherever we put our focus, that's where our energy goes to. It's that whole thing. And, I'm going to attribute a lot of what we're talking about here today to principles that I've learned from, I talk about them all the time, Ed Mylett. And he talks about the reticular activating system, which is a system that we have in our brain, where it's basically like an automatic focusing system. It allows, the whole purpose of it is to allow us to screen out all the unimportant things and focus in on the stuff that we say we care most about. So the easiest example of that you hear all the time is, when you want a new car, when you want to go buy a new car, you see like, my next car, I want to be a Toyota 4Runner, right?
Yep.
And my kids know this, that I see every 4Runner in my 180 degree vision. So same with you. If let's say you want a Mercedes convertible, and you're focusing on it and you really want it, you will see that car wherever you go, or whatever car you drive right now. I bet you see more of those on the road than you ever did before you got that car. And it's because that car is now important to us. Ryan and I, when we go on a golf course and we see a guy wearing Linksole, you can guarantee that we see that out of the corner of our eye. They got a Linksole hat or whatever. Like, it's a natural focusing system. So the more that you pay attention to something, the more you pay attention to something, and the more that the rest is filtered out. So if you have a goal and you're telling yourself, this is my goal, then you will be driven to first move in that direction of doing the tasks that are needed. But you'll also start to become aware of other things in your environment, other situations that somehow have to do with that goal. That may be, you're on the golf course and you hear something just out of the corner. Let's say your goal is swing speed, and you're on the golf course and you just happen to hear somebody in the shop talking about this new driver and they gained 5 miles an hour of swing speed. Your buddy didn't hear it at all because he doesn't give a shit about swing speed. He's doing whatever. But that little thing perked up your ears, and all of a sudden that's your reticular activating system. And so the more you focus on something, the more you're going to start kind of paying attention to a lot of those different things. That's where, if any of you guys listened to the episode we did with, what's his name? Michael Lozier, who wrote the book, The Law of Attraction. The law of attraction is a very fascinating thing to me, where, you not just like wishful thinking and things just kind of appear in your lap, right? But I think that the reticular activating system has a lot to do with this, that once you set your focus on something, you just start to pay attention to things that are in line with what you've been thinking about or what you want. So different connections you might make, different people you might meet, different situations that come about. It's just that you're more in tune to those things. And that's where it's like, yeah, you're literally attracting it, but it's almost because you have that innate focus from your reticular activating system. So having that in front of you.
Yeah, for sure. Without even thinking about it. Like the whole, like if you've ever owned a Jeep, there's a Jeep wave. like all Jeep Wrangler owners wave to each other, and it's
Yeah.
because of that. Like, and I'm on my third Jeep, so I never miss a Jeep around town, and it's very odd. People think, what are you doing, idiot? Like, I don't even think about it. I just,
Yeah.
what's up?
Yeah. It's one of those, like, just naturally, like, it's so weird too, because like out of the corner of your eye, you just know it, and it's like, how did I even see that thing? It's kind of like driving by a parking lot full of cars, like a shopping center, and you'll catch that one Jeep out of the corner of your eye. It's kind of nuts.
Always. And if I see an 18 strong anything on a golf course, forget about it. I'm sprinting over there and
Yeah,
see that guy a mile away.
yeah, for sure.
Nice. So we're
Okay.
gonna kind of go back to these two.
Yeah, or if you, I mean, if you want to jump in and
Yeah.
mention anything on any of these, go ahead.
Yeah, Marina had an excellent question as far as like putting a like measurement on there, and we struggle with this quite a lot. Like, if you just want to get in shape, and it's how do you put a target for strength?
Yeah, I mean, that's tough because you can't just say,
I want to be stronger.
globally I'm stronger. That's where you have to literally find, either some sort of measurement, whether that be, and really every single workout should be a bit of a measure on your strength. If we're talking about progressively overloading in our resistance training, which is basically a fancy way of saying adding more resistance when you can, that's what I look at when I'm in my own workouts, when I'm working out with, or when I'm taking one of my clients through a training session, is I'm constantly assessing, where are they with this particular move, this particular exercise, and can we push them up a little bit in the resistance. So let's say I have somebody doing some dumbbell squats, which is a pretty standard exercise that I would have people do. So let's say I just recently I'm working with a late high school kid, and he was doing 20-pound dumbbell squats. Well, after he does his first set, then and I do this every single set in my own workouts and with my clients. How did that weight feel? Let's say you're doing 6 to 8 reps. When he gets to 8 reps, how did that feel? Could you do more of those? Yeah, I definitely could do more of those. Okay, we need to bump up the weight. We'll go to 25s. Next set, how did those feel? Those felt pretty good. Could you do a few more? Yeah, I could do a few more. Bump up to 30. Next set, we go to 30. We go to 35, and he gets to 6 reps, and he's struggling. I know that's the limit of his weight. That's the top end of what he can handle, and maybe even if his form is not good, I'd say that's a little too much. We need to backtrack that back down. So that's a way that you can kind of just assess on the go. Now, if you're really serious about improving a certain type of strength, say that's your squats or your presses, or you want to do a pull-up, that's something that you need to kind of figure out what your baseline is in that specific movement. Or it could be, how far can I throw this medicine ball? But you have to then figure out where you are, just like being on a mat. Figure out where you are, figure out what your target is of where you want to get to, and then constantly assess yourself on the road, on that journey. Am I getting better? So if you're doing a program, like right now in one of my programs, I'm doing an incline barbell press, like a football bar press. Right. And it feels like my strength is going nowhere. And I write down every single workout, every single set. I write down what number, what the weight was that I did, and for the past 3 weeks, it has felt very heavy all 3 weeks. But sometimes it's just, okay, well then I can only add 2.5 pounds to this bar this week. And then hopefully next week I can add another 2.5 pounds or 2 pounds or whatever it is. But right. That's the biggest key, is just figuring out where you are and what you want your measurement to be. So Marina, I would ask you, strength wise, what is something that you would like to see improve in strength?
Certainly want stronger legs. So the squats and the lunges, glutes, those, I think and obviously upper trunk as well. But I think my legs are really, really important.
Mhm.
So,
And so,
what you're telling me is that I should actually write down my sets, how many sets, because sometimes I can't do all the 4 sets. You go, let's say 2 times 4 sets or whatever, and
mhm.
I just sort of can't do all of them. So I should write them down and then sort of see the progress. But yes, and it's very difficult, I think, for measuring my upper body, because I don't go to the gym at the moment. I have my kettlebells, I got my weights at home, I do my resistance bands. So it's a little bit difficult, but maybe deadlifts with my kettlebells, how many sets I can do.
Yeah, so there's different ways to change it up, because you're right. If you're at home and you have a limited set of weights, right? So you're not going to go buy a set of dumbbells from 5s to 50s like you have at the gym, right? And so it's not as easy to then progress with the resistance. So then there's other things that you can look at, as far as, yeah, can I get through all 4 sets? That might be a great way for you to start and say, yeah, I'm getting stronger because 2 weeks ago I could only get through 2 sets. This week I got through 3 sets. My goal next week is to get through all 4 sets.
Yeah.
Or I can this week I did all 4 sets. Now I don't have any extra weight to go up in weight. What can I do? Well, maybe I can slow down my reps a little bit. Or maybe with the same weight, maybe I can add a rep or 2 per set, right? So
Yes.
It's about just looking at what you did last week, and then what way can I maybe make that a little bit harder, a little bit more challenging, and then see that progress, as opposed to, okay, I did my 4 sets of 8 repetitions this week with 35 pounds. Well, I only have my 35 pounder, so I'm just going to do my 4 sets of 8 repetitions this week, and then you're just in maintenance mode, as far as I'm concerned. So if you don't have weight to go up in, then we got to find another factor that you can put in there to make it a little bit harder.
Because it's been very encouraging to see the progress, with the sets, and from week to week, I notice that I can actually go on doing this now. I can't do all of it, but sort of the progress is very encouraging. So it is very good.
Absolutely. I mean, if you're not writing down your weights and looking back to the week before, it's very easy to stay at the same level. And that's why when I see people in our gym, members that come in and they're doing their workouts, half the time they're just kind of walking around, just kind of like picking an exercise here or there. But even the people that I know have like a bit of a standard routine, that don't have anything that they're documenting, I know that they're not going to remember every single weight that they did from the week before. And so if you're naturally just going to kind of go back to, well, I think I did 25s last week, I'll just do 25s again. And then they do 25s on every set. So it's like they're never really kind of pushing themselves to get a little bit stronger. And it's that stress. Our body's really good at adapting. So it's that stress of trying to push a little bit harder that's actually going to help us grow, help us get a little stronger, help us get a little better. If you're just lifting the same weights over and over and over and over and over again, you can do that for a year straight and not really see a whole lot of change in your body. You'll maintain what you have in many respects, or sometimes even decline a little bit, even though you are putting in that weight, if you're not trying to push yourself a little bit. The other thing that I would suggest, and this isn't necessarily so much strength, but is, especially on the lower body stuff, I know that the range of motion is troublesome for some people. So the split squats, the lunges, the regular squats. So maybe it's not so much, can I increase my weight and my resistance? It's, how does my range of motion look? So that would be different. You can't really write that down, right? So that's maybe, hey, take a video of myself doing this exercise, and then in 2 weeks, take a video of yourself doing it again, with the intention of, I'm going to get a little bit deeper in my range of motion. So maybe that's, And that could even be that you're not going to increase resistance. Maybe you're going to decrease resistance or create some sort of way to assist yourself to help with the range of motion more so than the actual strength piece. Because then the more range of motion you get, the stronger you can get throughout the full range. And then that starts to kind of snowball into itself too.
Okay, thanks very much.
Yeah, that's awesome advice. The slowing your tempo down. Since I prefer to work out in my parents' basement, as we've discussed in the past. Our weights only go up to, the dumbbells only go up to 40 pounds. I mean, we've got the small dumbbells that you can put plates on them. But yeah, I found that extremely helpful just to slow yourself down, and it's really hard. I mean, we've talked about this with Tony. Yeah, it's great. Guys can bust out 100 push-ups in a day, but do 10 really, really good push-ups, and they'll be way, way better than just that constant boom, 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 boom. To try and do a 1 minute push-up, it's one of the hardest things that you can do.
Yeah.
So you can really, really do a lot with the tempo. And then our boy Jim, he said he's been recording. He's let's see, day 28 out of the past 30 days. So Jim, if you don't mind, what exactly have you been recording? I forget what we were talking about when you threw that towards me.
Yeah, one of the first things I do in the morning is just do my daily weight to see what I did. And,
okay.
And what that's helping me with is I was down 10 pounds, I guess, the first part of the month due to being sick with COVID, not eating as much, but
Right.
really motivating to see that change and then trying to stay with it. And then I got got comfortable with, well, I'm making progress so I can eat this item. Well, I couldn't eat the item. I caught up the next day, and I get it down to the, decimal point to see what the difference is. And that's been really helpful because it's helping me make those advanced decisions, in the evening. For example, if I want a snack, I typically will cut up an apple rather than something sweet, something that's not good for you.
Right.
So
for sure.
That's but I haven't got into the cold showers yet.
I'm telling you, it's a great.
I know.
I look forward to it most days.
No.
Yeah.
But I like those 7 steps because it's easy to monitor those and see where you're building up from that standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
absolutely.
We tend to keep it simple around here.
Exactly.
The more overly complex it is, the less chance that we'll do it.
Right.
So yeah, I totally agree with you there. Yeah, when you get sick, you lose weight like that. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, I guess, what is that, Bodine? Just mostly water weight that you're losing, right? Because you're dehydrated.
Correct.
That and some muscle weight too. You just kind of start to atrophy. You're not able to get the nutrients and stuff like that just to keep your body. It's pretty crazy how quickly the body can start to atrophy. It's literally within a day of not doing your workout, not doing any kind of resistance training or things like that, and just nutrition wise, you're losing a lot of water weight and things like that as well.
Right.
Well, I'm glad you're better, Jim.
Yeah.
Thank you.
He survived it.
I survived it. Yeah.
Another survivor.
Back to the course.
All right, Bodie, where are we at on your list?
Yeah,
there,
so that was we were talking about just kind of seeing it every day. This conversation is going to really kind of play into the next couple too. Part of it is having some sort of a deadline or having some sort of a time frame. If you just kind of throw it out there and say, I want to do this, but you don't give yourself any kind of time frame to do it, again, you're really giving yourself too much leeway where there's no pressure. There's no incentive to get something done. Most people kind of set their goals for December 31st or whatever, and then they really start working on those goals come December when they realize the time frame is about to end. I forget the name of the phenomenon, but it's like a principle where no matter how much time we're given, we'll take that much time. So if you have,
right.
If somebody tells you, you've got 8 hours to do this task at work, you'll take all 8 hours. But if they tell you you have 2 hours, you'll get it done in 2 hours. I forget the name of that, but having some sort of a time frame. That's again why, you know, we with the Forge, and so much of this keeps coming back to the Forge because this thing tackles so many of these different pieces. But you know, you've got 40 days. And so it's not that, hey, you have to reach this goal by the end of 40 days, but it's you got to do these things in 40 days. So again, it forces you to have to stay within that time frame. And you can't cheat the days, you can't speed it along. You've got this time frame of, you know, I have to do it in this amount of days. That leads into the importance of what we talked about at the very beginning, is simply having a process that you know you're going to follow. So one of the biggest things that we come across with people that are asking us for help is they don't have any sort of a plan or program when it comes to their fitness side. You know, they don't have dedicated workouts. They don't, like Ryan and I, we both, no matter whether we're doing the Golf Body Blueprint or we're doing a program that I design or that our buddy Tony designs, we're always working off of some sort of a spreadsheet when we go to the gym. So we know, like, okay, I've got 4 dedicated strength days this week. I know that in, you know, day 1, I've got these exercises, day 2, I've got these exercises. And then what I do is, you know, in between or at the end of a workout, then I'll add in some other stuff, maybe some mobility stuff, or, you know, do some of the move days that we do with the Golf Body Blueprint and those kind of things. But I know what tasks I need to check off when it comes to the fitness side. Now, for me in the golf side of things, I admit I don't have that checklist for myself right now of what I need to do in order to get better at, you know, working on my golf swing. I just took a lesson 2 weeks ago, and I've been working on the one position that we worked on. But even that, I haven't told myself that I have a process of, okay, you got to do. Now I'm doing it in my 15 swings every day. I'm kind of attacking it, but I don't have anything else processed out. But when you have that process, you can then say, I did it. This is what I have to do today. And you know that you're getting closer and closer and closer because you're just checking off the list of that process, which the next step is then keeping score of that process. And that's exactly what we're doing with the calendar in the Forge. We did a small group with a couple of guys. Brandon was in this group a long time ago. And this was from the book, The Compound Effect. And we had like a weekly task list, same exact thing that we're doing in the Forge, but you basically had listed out, you know, what are the things that you're going to do each week? And then at the end of the week, you gave yourself a score. You checked off, did I do it? Did I not do it? We did it with the guys that were in our RFG program. You know, what is that, 1.5 years ago, 2 years ago? And, and I mean, that also is your accountability, right? That's your own personal accountability of being able to score yourself and see, did you actually do it? And it's when you kind of put in these little factors that you realize, like, okay, do I deserve to get this goal or do I not? Because if I do my stuff, then I deserve to reach my goal. But if I'm not getting it done, if I'm not checking off all the boxes, then why the hell do I deserve to get whatever my goal is? And I think, Rhino, that's one of the biggest keys that we've seen with all of these different small group programs that we've done, is forcing people to just say, did you do it or did you not do it?
Yeah, having just the yes or no is huge. That's because there's no gray area. Those are great goal setting tips and tactics to do that. Yeah, and there's no excuse. Either you did or you didn't, idiot. No.
Yep.
And if you didn't,
Jim,
idiot, then you start over again. Yep.
Yeah, it's a yes or it's a no. And then, you know, the next one on my list here is then, you know, you have to also, for these goals, you have to expect that they're going to happen. You're going to you need to figure out, you know, and prove to yourself that you deserve for it to happen. And that goes back to this whole identity thing, creating the identity that you're the person that is going to achieve this goal. And you create that identity with those small little wins of saying, yes, I'm doing this stuff. I know that most of the other people that, you know, maybe are my competitors or my peers aren't doing these little things. And so, yes, I deserve to get the rewards that I plan on reaping, whether that be, gaining this reward, or reaching this goal, or shooting better scores, or hitting the ball further, or getting the lucky bounces. Like when you're playing golf, it's sometimes you get the good bounces, sometimes you don't. And typically, good things happen to the people that have put in the time, put in the work, and gotten that stuff done. So.
Always. Yeah. So Brandon chimed in with, it's a good idea. Like, another reason to write things down is then you're competing with yourself, which is huge.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I'll yell at myself, like, come on, you bitch, like, put this up. You can live more than that. And then he said he's got the Peloton and will go on there live. So he's got somebody to race. And that's, if you weren't competitive, you wouldn't be on these calls. You wouldn't be part of 18 Strong. And that's a great motivator to not let our chump buddies beat us at anything. So yeah, that's a great point, Brandon.
Well, if you remember, speaking of the Peloton, when COVID first came about and everybody was stuck at home, there were a bunch of PGA guys that were competing on their Peloton numbers.
That's right.
And I think Rory McIlroy kind of blew everybody out of the water. But it was one of those things where, I mean, it's in all of our nature to want to beat the other person, or to want to get better. And that's what I have found. I don't have any experience using the Peloton, but I've heard that the way that they track your stuff is incredible, because then, you see where you were just what we're talking about. You see where you were last week. You see what your performance and your output numbers were. And then it's all about trying to beat and trying to get better and trying to get better. And they rank you. There's a reason why they rank you in the class of people that were there. There's a reason why, we like to see our results at the end of a trail run, to see how we did, how do we stack up against, the rest of our peers. We're all competitive in nature. That's what CrossFit has been incredible with, is, creating this community of people that are super competitive, and having these boards where they show, who's the winner. That's why challenges are such a big deal. People want to compete. And sometimes you have to throw yourself into situations that at first you're not really comfortable with. But then once you get in there, you get the juices flowing. Just like our buddy Matt, just posted, like, because of the Forge, he was finally able to get up the courage to go get back in the hockey rink. And now I guarantee he wants to get better at hockey. He wants to skate faster. He wants to do all these things, aside from the golf goals that he has. So I think that's cool that this quote unquote golf challenge got him back playing ice hockey again.
I didn't see that one coming.
Stuff. Yeah, for sure.
Nice. So we've got a couple minutes here. I know Brandon had a question that he sent you. Did you want to address that while we got his attention?
Yeah, definitely. So Brandon's question had to do with shoes. Actually, Brandon, you want to hop on and throw it out again?
Yeah, just in general.
What's up, dude?
To a pot. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I said, what's up, man?
Oh, nothing.
Good to see you.
Just living the dream here in Ohio. But
hey, that's where that soccer game is tonight, by the way.
Okay.
The World Cup qualifier is in your state, Columbus.
Really?
Yep.
I didn't know that. So, but so I watched the square toe shoes, and they were talking about, they had a little measurement study. I don't know how independent it was, but they saw gains in their shoe, and they kind of attributed to the firm bottom shoe. And so you kind of correlate that to power lifters. They use, those almost block shoes. And, there's been this world of, Nike Free, True Linkswear, these very flexible shoes, and their research was kind of on the opposite side of it. So I was just kind of, curious to pick your brain. I know you've done the True Linkswear before, and I've worn them as well. On just the stability process, I guess, involved in the correlation between, golf, which is, it's a powerful motion at times. And, no kidding, powerlifters all wear these very firm, solid shoes.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of validity to the fact that having a more stable shoe is going to provide you with a more stable base to push off of, to rotate off of. That being said, there's also a lot of other activity going on during your round of golf than just the swing too. So, you got to kind of balance what works for you, because some people, if they're going to be walking 18 holes, they can't walk in a super stiff shoe because that's not going to be very comfortable for them to walk. And then, ultimately that's going to end up causing a little bit of trouble with their golf swing too. I personally prefer to wear, I'd say probably a little bit more of a middle ground shoe. I like to have a little bit of the feel of my feet, and to be able to, work on the footwork a little bit, but also just for the walking portion. Like the True Links wear, they've got the knits, right, that are, very, very free, very loose. I play in those every now and then, but like if I had to go play like really competitively, that wouldn't be my choice. I wouldn't wear a set of powerlifting shoes with spikes on them either, though, because I know that they wouldn't be very comfortable. I've worn those to lift weights in, and I don't even really care to train with those on. I think in your email you had also asked about what's a good shoe for training as well. I prefer more of a zero drop, kind of a flat footed shoe, like a Converse, or I've got my my True
Look at
Links
that
wear.
mobility. Did you do your hip cars today?
Here, look at that. Can I get up with that? How about that? No hands. So I've got the TLs on. And again, they're a little bit looser, but they've got the flat bottom. So I often will just lift in these too, on like when I know I'm doing lower body stuff. Just because of that flatter foot, it forces me into a little bit more ankle range of motion. And again, having a little bit more free shoe when you're lifting, where it's not so super rigid, that allows you to use your feet on the floor a little bit more, which I really like doing split squats, doing squats, doing lunges, things like that. I like being able to feel that my feet are kind of gripping into the ground a little bit for balance and stability's sake. So the shoe isn't creating my stability, my foot is creating the stability. So I'm getting a little bit of that work there. Makes the ankle work more, makes the calf muscles, all the muscles around there, even up into the hips and everything. So I do prefer that for lifting. As far as for golf, though, I think it has to, you have to find what's comfortable for you. I know the Body Tracks was even for a while doing like a shoe fitting to figure out like what style shoe was better for you. I don't know if they ever released that research project. They were doing that with FootJoy a while back, but I don't know if that ever really got off the ground. But I would say that, yeah, having a more rigid shoe probably will give you the ability to create some more power right there. But, in the long run, maybe having your body being able to work a little bit better, using your feet a little better, you actually you might get a little bit better control and explosiveness because your body now can create it more, as opposed to your shoes creating that stability. So I don't know, maybe I'll have to look and see if there's any other studies out there aside from just the Squares one, or even just look into the Squares one and see what they say.
Yeah, they're horrible looking. I mean,
they're awful.
Yeah.
They
look a little.
They're not a
clunky.
good looking shoe.
They look a little clunky, but if they pay Nick Faldo to wear them and say that they're the best thing ever, I guess, right?
I actually I have a client. We give him shit for it all the time. He bought a pair. They weren't as bad looking as I thought they were going to be in person, but yeah, they're just not my style.
No, they're
Yeah.
awful.
I found some good. So my Golf Spy does like the independent testing,
Mhm.
and there's a little. You'd hope there's less bias involved in their things, and so they'll come out. Inesis makes like it's a low cost shoe that has like they won some of their awards, for stability, and it was actually a lower cost shoe.
What's it called
I
again?
like those. What's that?
What was that called again?
Inesis.
How do you spell that?
Inesis. I believe.
Okay. Yeah.
And then
Take a look at these.
the Under Armour shoe, like their Hover performed pretty well, but like it was kind of interesting with like the squares. I'm like, well, how did they measure that? Right? Were
Yeah.
they, saying like, you need to swing your driver as fast as possible, for the next 2 weeks with these shoes. Well, if somebody just did that, they might see, improvements just from the overspeed training. So
Yeah.
it's not necessarily, when you look at it from a statistical standpoint, you want to scratch your head and be like, well, what else was involved? Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll also look on, so we had Matt Saturnis on the show recently, and he runs Plugged In Golf. And I know that they do a lot of testing on stuff too. I'll see if he's had any experience with any kind of shoe testing or anything like that. It's all just kind of independently testing. They do a lot of clubs and equipment and stuff like that. So I'll see if he has anything on there too.
Yeah, because it's the only part of your body that actually touches the ground, right?
Yeah.
In the golf swing. So
Yep.
kind of an important piece of equipment.
Yeah. Yeah, which I do find interesting that, so many of these shoes, like the ones that Ryan and I typically wear, that they don't really have a whole lot of grip, like the True Links wear, they don't have a traditional spike. I think if you're really trying to maximize what you're getting out of your swing, getting as much distance, you got to have a good spike that's going to grip and give you something to plant off of too. So I would venture to say that, for somebody like you, Brandon, that's playing at a super high level, when you're going out and really competing, and every yard counts. Yeah, that can be one of those kind of like 1% to 5% things that you could change that might be able to kind of give you, a little extra. Whereas, most of the time when Ryan and I are going out and playing, we're not competing for anything but pride, right? And
Right.
and to go out and have a good time. But I guarantee that having some good quality spikes that give you some grip, a little bit more stability, maybe not totally super rigid, but because you need to be able to move and pivot and things too. But I see the validity there.
Yeah, it's unique. I don't know, especially in a day and age where like everything is measured statistics wise, right? You get into. Have you heard of the decade system?
Yeah, Scott Fawcett.
Yeah. Have you had him on the show?
Not yet. We've communicated back and forth a little bit, but hoping to make that one happen in the future.
Right, because you see, just the difference if you hit the ball just a little bit further, and on the PGA Tour, and that means you can carry, even 2% more bunkers over the course of a PGA Tour season. Your strokes gained. I'm like, you talked about money and stuff like that. I mean, it's just you can correlate it just to that alone. You're going to finish higher in this, and that's going to result in more, wedges or birdie opportunities. So instead of a guy having to hit a long iron off a tee because he wants to stay short of the stuff, he can bust it past it. And even if it's in the rough, he's still going to have a wedge,
Mm-hmm.
So it's really interesting. Like if squares can really quantify that, no kidding, you're going to increase your ball speed by a mile an hour. You'd see probably some pros want to get into that shoe.
Yeah.
I mean, pros are probably, they're sponsored by FootJoy, so they probably can't, but
Yeah. And, FootJoy, they make some super rigid, stable shoes as well. So I'd like to see a side-by-side comparison of not the squares versus the True Links wear, but the squares versus the FootJoy or the Adidas, where, they've got a little bit more meat to them as well. So.
Yep.
All right.
Well, I took up too much of your time. I appreciate it.
No, all good. All good. Yeah. Anything else before we close out here? Rhino?
No. Go Hayden Buckley. Go Adam Long.
Yeah. Let's get a Hayden Buckley win sometime
for
this
those dudes,
season.
always.
Yep.
Yeah,
For
it's
sure.
gonna
Do
happen.
you work with him like one-on-one still? Or
Hayden? Yeah.
Yes. Nice.
Yeah. It's a very remote, we text a couple times a week, and he's got programs that he does. I'm trying to figure out when there's a break in his schedule. We were going to try to get together in between, like December, January, but just never was able to work anything out. So, because I want to get together and iron out a few things, but we'll see. They don't really have a whole lot of break time in the next several months.
No, they're earning months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we shall see.
Very
Yeah, I
cool.
love
Alright,
his ball
guys.
swing. I love it.
Oh, it's awesome, isn't it? Super athletic. Got
Yeah.
the little hitch, and then
Yeah. I watched it for the first time
Something else.
and I was like, whoa. But then I'm like, he smashes it. So,
Yep,
Yeah.
he can move it. He was just out of TPI this past week, working with Greg Rose. So I'm really curious to see, because he's got some interesting stuff in his swing. But Greg Rose is a big, like, don't screw with it if it's working. Let's just kind of dial things in a little bit. So,
sure.
all right, guys.
All
Cool.
right.
Good call. We'll keep forging, and we'll talk to you guys all very soon.
All right. See you guys.
Thank you very much.
All right, see you,
Got it.
Marina.